Hello. Hi. Who wants to see some brown? That sounds so boring, but let's do neutral because I do that too sometimes. I don't just do colors all the time. I also have already put some soap brows in and the glossier boy brow on my brows. I've already primed my eyes and I have glossier futuredew on my skin because that's my last step of my skincare. I also primed my hair on the other side. Just walk on the wild side because I can't be tamed. I'm just gonna take Fresh from the Sultry palette. It's just like a cream color and I'm just gonna put it right along my brow bone, right underneath my brow. I don't like to set my whole lid. When I do neutrals, I lots of times just set the upper half so you don't get a like hot spot is probably the best word I can use for it, to where you get just like a super solid spot of pigment that's really hard to blend out. And I find sometimes Anastasia shadows can do that if you're not careful, because some of their shadows are a little more pigmented than others and it can be hard to not get those weird super pigmented spots. Let's take a fluffy blending brush. Do I want to do cool tones or warm tones? I'll do warm tones. I'm gonna take burnt orange first from Soft Glam and I'm gonna run that in the upper portion of my crease with a really light hand because ABH shadows can go from 0 to 100 like real quick. Whenever I do just general crease work, I always do really small circles and then really soft like windshield wiper motions just to get a nice soft blend. On the same brush, I'm going to take Rustic from Soft Glam. It's just like a slightly deeper brown. Burnt orange really kind of translates as a brown on the lid, I think. I don't know that that looks particularly orange. And I'm just gonna focus Rustic kind of slightly below where I initially placed burnt orange and a little bit in my outer corner. I'm not gonna make this super dark or anything. I don't think. I say that, but who knows. It's just to give burnt orange a little more dimension. Dipping back in again just to slowly build the pigment. I don't like to take a crap load of shadow all at once because I don't like having to struggle to blend things out. My favorite thing to do with crease colors, everybody always wants to close their eye, which you can do while you're doing shadow, but if you want to know how it's going to look when your eye is open, keep your eye open and just look straight ahead and place your deeper shades. It's a nice way to get them to not like be overpowering, because when your eyes closed you can kind of forget where you see when your eyes open, and then you end up going a little crazier than you meant to, or at least I do. I shouldn't speak for everybody. My eyes are not the same, so I try to make them look as even as I can with makeup, but this one's a little droopier than the other one. Now that I'm happy with the way that Orange Soda and Rustic look blended together, I'm taking Cypress Umber from the Soft Glam palette, which is a repeat from Anastasia palettes. Cypress Umber is also in the Modern Renaissance palette, if I'm not mistaken, and there's a color very similar to it called Dystopian in the Sultry palette. So all I did when my camera was not looking at me was I took a couple of dots of Cypress Umber, just a teeny bit, and just worked it just into my outer corner, and I didn't even blend it, not even halfway. It's literally only blended to about there on my eye, just to give a little teeny bit of dimension in the outer corner. Always start with less product than you think you need because dark colors can go pretty far. You could use a black for this too, but black can get out of hand a lot easier. And I have a little bit of a flair for the dramatics, so I tend to get a little out of hand with black. So I only really use it if I'm doing like a really dark look, because dark brown accomplishes very similar things. I've just barely blended that into my outer corner. I'm going to take surprise, surprise, some NYX glitter primer. I use the same brush for this like every time I do it, which is every time I wear makeup basically. And just pat that glitter primer all over my lid. I might do 2 shimmers today just to spice things up, but you don't have to do that. You could just do 1. Just pull that glitter primer a little past my natural crease. I'm gonna take the color Bronze from the Soft Glam palette on a flat packing brush. It's not really a real bronze. I would consider this a gold, but they can call it whatever they want, I guess. And I'm just gonna press that onto my lid. I try to mostly, with shimmers especially, just do kind of like patting motions and not so much swiping, because when you swipe you can end up with a lot of glitter on your face, and I'm assuming most people don't want to deal with having to clean up glitter. I said I was going to do 2 shimmers and I just covered my whole lid with bronze, but maybe we'll put another one on top. Let's take Sultry from the Soft Glam palette. I hate that that name is there. Soft Glam came out first and they named this shade Sultry, and then they came out with the Sultry palette, and it's so bothersome to me that there's not the Sultry color in the Sultry palette. But I'm going to take Sultry, which is a darker shimmery brown, and I'm going to pat that right on the outer bit of my eye to help bronze blend into the mattes. You're really not getting much of the shimmer that's in this shade because I didn't put it on glitter glue because I forgot that I was going to do this, but that's okay. I'm going to try a Sultry with my finger and see if that applies better, because your finger's a little denser than a brush, so you can get a little better pressure. It kind of helped. One thing, if you do anything on one eye, you have to do it on the other eye. So I'm going to start with the brush with Sultry on this eye, even though I should just take a finger, but I want them to look as close to the same as we can. And just pat Sultry right into the outer half of my lid. And then I'll take a little bit of Sultry on my finger to match what I did. Sorry that you can hear Leo barking. The mailman just came. I'm just going to take the same blending brush I used before with no extra product on it. I didn't dip back in. I'm just going to blend those outer corners across the top a little bit of the shimmers. I'll blend right here too a little bit because it looks a little choppy. And then if you ever feel like you lost that like first transition shade, like if I feel like I don't have enough burnt orange, I can always take a little bit of it and just blend it right at the edges there. I feel like it looks okay though. I don't know that I need to do that. So I'm going to put on Glossier Stretch Concealer. I'm going to put on some Glossier Cloud Paint in the color Dusk. It's just like a nude. And my highlight, and I'll be back. Once again, I'm not covering my pimples because I don't care and they don't bother me. I ended up putting Twilight, which is a coral blush from the Lunar Beauty Moon Prism blush palette, on top of the Glossier Cloud Paint because I didn't feel like it was like quite the tone I was going for. I wanted a little more corally warm toned. And now I'm going to take Noir from the Soft Glam palette on that really flat definer brush, and I'm just going to wiggle it right at my lash line, like almost in my lashes, as close as I can get to my lashes, just a little bit. I probably should have done this before I did my concealer and everything, but I forgot. I just want a little bit of deepness at my lash line, and I don't have liquid liners anymore because I hate them. I only took that about halfway, not even halfway, just before my pupil on the outer edge. I just want a little bit of extra darkness in that outer corner. Very carefully pat and wiggle instead of swiping, because if you swipe across, that black's gonna fall on my face, and it hasn't yet, so we're doing good. I'm gonna take that first blending brush again and just kind of go right over my shimmer a little bit because I feel like it looks a little harsh. I'm not adding any product to the brush though, I'm just blending it a little bit. What I'm actually going to do is dip very lightly into bronze with that blending brush actually, and put it right onto the bronze, but then wiggle it a little bit in the crease. to get it to look like I don't just have a harsh line from that glitter primer. There, it's a little better. Still a little sharper than I wanted it to be, but that's okay. If the ABH formula does not make your eyes water like it does to me, you could use a combination of rustic or cypress umber or just one or the other on your lower lash line. I have to use a different color because my eyes water profusely at the outer corners whenever I put ABH shadows on my lower lash line because I have a reaction to them. Instead of using the ABH shadows, I'm going to use the Melt Gemini palette, and I'm going to use Polka Dot and Cupcake. Actually, I'm just going to take Cupcake. Just going to dip a couple times into that. It's just quite literally that brown right there. It's nothing crazy. Just going to dip a bit into that, focusing most of the darkness just in that outer quarter of the lower lash line because I don't want my lower lash line to be too crazy smoky. And you can see that pretty much matches the top, even though it's not the same color. Browns are really tricky like that. Now, this is pretty, and you could put like a cream or like a brighter, like a lighter gold in your inner corner. But because I can't be stopped, I'm going to put a little bit of the color Mary Jane from the Just My Luck ColourPop palette in my inner corner. It is a lime green. I'm doing a pretty big little, like pretty big spot of that because I want it to be apparent that it's lime, because look how fun that looks. I think green goes really well with neutrals. You could do a brow bone highlight if you want. I feel like mine is still pretty, like you can still see that color I put on there first, so I'm good with that. Let's do a nude lip. This is MAC Honeylove. It's just a nice nude. I haven't worn an actual lipstick in so long. I don't always line my lips because I don't get a lot of feathering or bleeding with my lip color, so I don't bother. I guess I should put mascara on. And then, because I also forgot, I'm going to take Woodsy by ColourPop. This is just a warm brown liner, and put that in my waterline. That's it. Ta-da!